welcome to No Lasting City, probably the second best podcast in the world. I'm Matthew Johnston. No Lasting City is a ministry of Riverbend Bible Church here in Hastings, New Zealand, and our goal with this podcast is to distract you from the worries of the world and to ravish your mind with the person and work and glory of Jesus Christ. I'm without Toby today, but I'm not without a dear brother in Christ. Dave Hubbard has returned to No Lasting City podcast. Dave is a full-time professional bodybuilder. He is 10 times world champion, and he's here post a very exciting event that we're no doubt going to talk about that Dave actually won. A lifelong childhood dream came to reality for Dave just recently, and we're going to talk about that. And so Dave Hubbard, thank you for joining us again on this podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure. I always enjoy our time together. And yeah, thrilled to be on No Lasting City again.
Dave coming from Kauai in Hawaii there. And Dave, I'm just going to go out and tell our listeners that you have just won the Bonsai Pipeline World Bodyboarding Championship there on the North Shore of Oahu, and congratulations. I can't imagine what that felt like to win, the most prestigious event in all of surfing, all of bodyboarding. Let's just open with a massive congratulations to you and also learn about what this has been like for you. So, brother, so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, of course, all the glory goes to God. I'm just over the moon with the opportunity to participate. It's an event that hasn't happened every year. Sometimes we either don't get the permit or the event can't run due to conditions. Although we'd love to have it every single year, it hasn't been exactly every single year. So I'm just so thankful that it was able to happen and super thankful that I could participate. I love to participate in this event. It's been, like you alluded to, part of the dream of a bodyboarder growing up and just looking to see guys ripping, it's kind of the pinnacle of our sport is this wave called pipeline. I think at least in the past it was, I think for a lot of people, it still holds that position in their minds. And so to be able to compete at this wave and, come away with the victory in this case was, monumental, and just really just felt I was just so graced by God to be able to experience that, as I've worked towards that goal for probably 25 years, had the goal probably for 30. So yeah, really, really cool, really rad.
It's quite amazing. 30 years, and then there it is coming to pass right before your very eyes. The guys who ran the competition, I understand they have the permit for at least the next 3 years or 2 or 3 years. And so we're looking forward to you being able to defend your title next year, to use a fighting analogy.
Yeah, yes, really exciting. We have some ideas about how to kind of return this event to its former glory, if you will. It used to hold a really huge prominent place in the sport, and I think it still does, just as a matter of factly, but I think there's a way that we could help the sport internationally by offering seeds and positions, and people could qualify into this event globally. So, making it really inclusive and trying to do something locally that can affect globally. So that's kind of part of the excitement, certainly, that I and many share with future permitted events that we look to be running over the next couple of years. I say we because I help in some aspects. I didn't do anything regarding the running of the event, so there was no conflict of interest as far as my participation, but I help where I can. In this last edition, it was in the webcast. I kind of helped around.
Yeah. And of course, Hubboard's your brother, and your board company is a sponsor there of the event. I just found it so great to be able to watch the event live stream, to hear all the commentary going on. And then there's so many things we could talk about from beginning at the very end, if we will. I saw the video of you get carried up the beach. I think Tanner and your brother, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Tanner and your brother carried you. And Tanner McDaniel is actually presently here in New Zealand. He's the current world champion. And so there's some funny irony in that Tanner is here and in New Zealand, and I'm talking to you, Dave. They carry you up the beach, and as soon as you get off, you just begin praising God to all the people around you. It was quite an amazing video that's online. You're telling people about Christ, that how he's the way, that he wants a relationship with you. And then when you, of course, had the podium, when you're up on the podium and they give you the mic, you're just giving glory to Christ and telling the world that's watching about Jesus. And it's quite good. Well, it's beyond good. It's great.
Thank you. And yeah, we've talked about it previously on this podcast, and I've really appreciated your prayers and the prayers of some of your listeners, to be sure, to pray for that end, that God would be glorified through my accomplishments, and that he would speak through not only my actions, but through me when I get a voice, when they hand the mic over, or people are paying enough attention that they would listen. And so, yeah, I give all the credit, of course, to the Holy Spirit, who kind of gave me those words and boldness, but would like to thank you and some of your listeners as well for praying for me to that end.
Oh, it's a privilege. I know we were messaging each other between heats, and I was definitely praying for you. And just talking about some of the heats, I mean, particularly that final. Have you watched that final back yet on video?
Yeah, a couple times.
Like, I don't know the name of the lady. I'm sure she has a lot of respect in the surfing, bodyboarding world. I don't know her at all. I'd never seen her. I forget who the other commentator was. Was it Tamiga?
Yes.
Yeah, it was Tamiga. That's right. An absolute legend in our sport. Crazy guy. And that final was intense. Of course, I'm praying and really, as you say in America, rooting for you, and that final began, and it was quite something. The exchange, that opening exchange, was crazy, brother. It was crazy. Talk us through that from your perspective. That would be some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about on the podcast, was like what it was like for you, out in the water as that was going down.
Yeah, and it was a very crazy is the word you used, but it was a special exchange. It was an opening exchange that's rarely seen, because 3 of the 4 riders caught excellent rides within a minute or 2 of the start. So in that respect, that's kind of rare. That doesn't really happen. So it's really exciting for the spectators, and of course for us who were riding. We were all very excited to get a good score at the start of the heat. That's always kind of a goal, if you can start the heat with a great score. But part of the excitement or contentment you would have fulfilling that initial goal of starting the heat so well was just in view of the other riders having achieved the same goal. So that opening exchange was like, okay, well, we're almost back to square one here. We all have great waves. Nobody has a huge advantage. So kind of like game on, and we need to like really keep going at it. And so, yeah, for the rest of the, I think 25, just more of the same, looking for big scoring opportunities and really going for big moves. The competitors who were in the final, Sammy and Mac and Alfonso, everybody was surfing really well. So it was anybody's heat, and very, very exciting to watch, as you did, but also to be a part of from my side.
Yeah. The listeners, in competition, there's what's called the priority system. And I'm trying to recall it in my mind. I think Sammy got a backdoor wave first.
Yeah, he did. So under priority at the very start of the heat, nobody has that priority, which kind of holds your place in line, so to speak. So he caught a medium wave kind of underneath everybody just to start off. Had a big invert, really exciting wave. I was able to catch the next wave, but then the biggest wave of the exchange got it right behind mine, and we landed all our maneuvers. So boom, huge scores to start off. Yeah.
Did you turn around and see Mac?
Yeah, I saw Mac's wave. Yep.
Yeah. Do you feel pressure at that moment, or you are just all in, like, I've got time? You're so experienced. You're probably just like, I've got time. That's okay. Did you know what just happened? Like, did you know something big had just happened?
Yeah, we kind of all had that idea. I certainly did. And so I saw Mac's wave, and, the beach is going crazy, like a lot of cheers coming from the shoreline. So I kind of already knew that Sammy must have done something great. I'm hearing excitement regarding Mac's wave. I saw the size of it. I don't know if I completely saw him complete his maneuver, but I had an idea even before the scores came in that, yes, this is the reality. This is the kind of heat it's going to be. Very exciting, very kind of intense in one respect. But I think, as your question really was about, like, how I'm feeling and my mindset as I'm observing all those things. And yes, while it was exciting and the stakes were high, so to speak, there was definitely like a calmness. And, now that I'm 42 years old and have been competing professionally for 25 years or so, there's a level of calmness and a peace, that I have. And the peace comes from Christ and my relationship with God and my faith that his plan's going to be perfect. And so I don't have the same kind of pressure on myself to kind of validate who I am. Like, I'm named after King David, not initially, not immediately, but, the name comes from King David and he was beloved by God, and that's the kind of the meaning of that name. And that's my identity. I'm beloved by God. Like, I don't need this pipe win to make me anything more or less than who I am. So the pressure was not respectively like regarding, I need to perform to achieve this. I'm performing from the desire to achieve a goal. Not that it's going to define me, but it's just exciting and it's an opportunity, and I want to do it and showcase the talent God gave me and reach that platform, as you talked about, to share Christ. And so, yeah, it's just a lot in there about the mentality of like, what's going through my mind and the experience. But yeah, there's a lot of peace there.
Yeah, and as you explain that, I think that's such a contrast for the Christian to the non-Christian. Our identity, we're satisfied in Jesus. Our identity is in him. And the great paradox is that in our pursuits of excellence and whatever it is, we have a sense of calm about us. We're still made of flesh and blood, so we still, have things we're wrestling with, but that ultimate goal and desire to be pleasing to him, that we can rest in him, it kind of, for lack of a much better term, it kind of gives us an advantage in some regard, that we're not entirely, because I think back to some of the other pipe competitions when I first started bodyboarding back in like 95, probably 95. Well, there was the 1997 pipe comp where a fellow Australian won that comp, Steve Bullet McKenzie.
Yeah.
And that was something else, That's like a legendary pipe comp.
Yeah, I think he beat Kaino McGee in the final. And I think it was one of the few man-on-man finals of pipe event. But also, that event, I believe, was televised on ESPN, which was, at least in the United States, I don't know if Down Under or New Zealand.
Yeah, it would have been on something for sure. But I feel like back then, I don't know, were those moments a lot more fierce competitively? I'm sure it's still really competitive now. And I wanted to ask you this because you mentioned at the beginning how the pipe comp kind of hadn't been around for a while. There was some permits. I can remember back in the day, the bodyboarders, kind of protesting, holding up signs on the side of the road to like get the permits and stuff. And so now they get the permits, and it's a far more, it's for the prestige of the event rather than a kind of piece of our world tour, because our world tour is kind of in a different, interesting space right now. And so I bet it's still really, really competitive. But is there anything that's different, you think, from back in the day as it not being a part of the world tour? Or is it still, and you literally just won it and you competed in it, is it still very much, like I know Damian King, right? We know him, and he's won it twice, or he's won 2 world titles and 1 pipe, and he's a very competitive guy. And tell us a little bit about the atmosphere amongst the competitors.
Yeah, I think, there's for sure that really competitive element. When people come to Pipeline, the wave is already intense. So you can't really be lackadaisical or too relaxed. You can keep it cool and calm, but the wave itself typically is pretty intense. You add, a field of almost about 100 competitors. So that's already another degree. I think, to answer your question, if we're looking at differences between the exact competitive nature of the field this year versus 97 or other years, yes, those differences you already pointed out. But as this was kind of the first time for this promoter to be running the event, that we hadn't the event for a few years, kind of this new beginning. And so I think a lot of people were closer to my side of grateful. We're having the event. Let's enjoy it. I'm happy to participate. I kind of trend on that side. And I think more people were probably a little closer to that side. If an event runs consistently every year, it's part of the tour, you qualify for it, people might not be as appreciative. And then I think in that space, it can be more fierce and grindy and people really combative towards their goals. So I do think there was an intensity, but I think that was probably more personal per competitor and maybe not across a group of competitors or across nationalities or in other spaces that we probably used to see it.
Yeah. I guess to put my question a better way, was there any real intense, not trash talking, but there's the legends of whether it's Tamiga or whoever are very vocal out there. Was there any of that kind of thing going on? At one point I saw you waving in the water, and I'm guessing you were waving to hear scores or to know priority. Was that what that was about?
I was waving a lot because the priority marshals were not properly trained, and they were making a lot of priority errors in their judgments. And it was a new group of guys, and so once I had finished my competition, I offered kind of like a correct training so that they could get that right for the day 3. And it was, again, a new group of new promoter and doing things new, so there is a learning curve. And so when I was waving my arms, I was like, bro, you guys are making some crazy calls. You certainly couldn't have just made the call you did. And I'm kind of waving. So there was some frustration there. But yeah, I was really reminded to like kind of let that go and allow what God had for the situation and not kind of try to control too much of what I couldn't control. Kind of going back to, was there some smack talk in the water? There wasn't. And I think, again, the field, the way it kind of rolled on out was kind of a lot of younger guys having their first experience or kind of a newer experience. Sammy has been in the top 4 a couple times before this. So he had some experience. Mac was first-time finalist. Alfonso was a first-time finalist. I've been in the final a couple times. But, I think that kind of led to also our personalities. There's only probably one smack talker out of those 4. And there wasn't really a lot of smack talk. I think I'm alluding to just Sammy is typically just a more vocal competitor. And I'm a little bit more reserved. I don't really want to intrude in other people's mental space. If there's a reason to communicate or if I'm asked a question, if there is a moment to share with a competitor, I'm okay and I'm open to share a moment with them, but I'm not really projecting verbally what I've done or what I haven't done or what I want. I'm a little bit more calm.
Yeah, that's good. No, I love answering. I just have an inquisitive mind, and I just am eager to hear some of those things. And for sure, it was no less competitive because, as you said, this is pipeline. This is one of the best waves in the world. And man, I've looked back and watched some of the footage, and there were some really, really amazing rides. I'm hoping that they soon come out with like a video package of the event. It may have been posted yet. I haven't seen it yet, but I know they're a new crew, and bodyboarding is so grassroots, so organic, and that's what makes it so cool, in my opinion. But I'll tell you, that was a pipeline contest where only bodyboarders are allowed out there in the water. There's photographers in the water, on the land. There's jet skis. There's prize money. There's the esteem and regard from winning it. And you did it, Dave. You did it. And what a field, really. Like when we think of the competition field, there were, as you said, a lot of the young guys coming up. And then, because it was an invitational, right?
It was, yeah.
And so they invited, and in many ways an invitational has a higher level often than, the seeded entry kind of thing, because they're bringing in, some of the best guys ever. And truly you were competing against some of the best guys ever.
And it was really cool, over how many editions of the pipe there has been. The first event was in 82. So
that was the year I was born.
Same with me. Yeah, so there's been, not quite 40 editions, but probably more than 35, I would think, somewhere between 35 and 38. And so that's a long history of the event, but some huge names over that span. I mentioned one, Kaino McGee. He was runner-up to your Steve McKenzie in the 97. There was, Jeff Hubbard has won the event. My brother has won it a bunch of times, maybe 6 times. Damian King was there. He's won it. Older guys like Chris Burkhart, who's had a a couple strong runs in
Andre Botha.
Andre Botha was there. He's a pipe champ and a former world champ. So, even though there was so many new guys to the event, there was still a lot of great history in the event from a lot of past winners, a lot of past finalists. That was just a really cool dimension to the day, like this is 2025. This is, like we had talked about, this is not the year that I envisioned winning as far as, like when the dream started, this is 25 years later.
Yeah.
A lot of those same guys who were right at the top or, in the mix were there and present, and really, really cool, a really diverse field. Tanner McDaniel, who's done really well at the event, and he has won at pipe, and then these, younger guys as well. I mentioned Sammy and Mac, but Kavika Kamai, this new generation coming up, and some younger kids too that were in the juniors, Noah Chapman and Nash Burkhardt. Really young guys under 18, winning their heats or, posting huge scores in the opening day. So just really diverse field and just really cool. It was a killer vibe for sure.
It was an incredible field of competitors. And to win that must be so special for you. I was messaging Damien King in between his heats. He wasn't able to sleep, and so I was sending him video messages of some breathing that we do in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that helps you kind of relax a little bit, reset your autonomic nervous system, just that box breathing. And he was appreciating that, but he was being kept up by that rooster. Some rooster was keeping him awake. Yeah. And he's such a character. He had some really good heats. Like he won his first 2 heats. I think he lost his third. It was really tough on him. There was about 45 seconds left and he just needed a 3-point something, I think, from memory. No waves came through. He tried to get into one and it just kind of fizzled out, and he came in, and then the next heat paddled out, and then his sets just started coming.
Yeah, tough break. That happens in the water. But yeah, Damien was surfing great, and it was great to see him. I know we had spoken in our private messaging, private communications previously, and I hadn't seen Damien surfing the last couple of years. And so it was great. I got some free surfing with him, but then to watch him in the competition, and to your credit, which you had pointed out to me, he's still ripping, so it was really cool. It was really cool to see Damien surfing really well, how we remember him, still at a really high level, clean, powerful, just his own brand, which is really Aussie style represented at the event. So that was cool. And he is such a character.
He is a character. How was your overall season in Hawaii? Because I tracked with you, and then it seems like you went home, and then did you go back to pipe again?
Yeah, so I made a couple trips over to Oahu to surf pipe, and man, we had an amazing middle of February. There must have been 8 or 9 A+, B+ to A+ days within a 2-week span. 2 weeks, 4 days of each week for sure, we're just cracking pipe. So that was so cool to kind of have that as a lead up. I hadn't surfed pipe this season until middle of February. So, logging in a bunch of great days, getting great rides, having great sessions, led right up into the event very nicely. And then since I did go back over one more time, and I think it was kind of towards the middle tail end of March. We got another couple good days. So there was some great days. The trick is, Matthew, with pipeline, it's not breaking all year round, but typically in season, there's events happening, and we're talking about the bodyboarding event that took place, but there's 3 or 4 surfing events that take place, and they all have these 12 to 13 day waiting periods, and they're going to run on the best days. And so it's not easy to get good pipeline during the season because there's events happening, and there's little breaks, cooling off periods, they call them, in between the events. And so yeah, it was great to have a lot of good pipe leading up to our event that everybody could participate in, not just bodyboarders practicing, but it was open for everybody. And so
that's amazing.
Good season.
So some of the footage that's coming out is not of you going back. You didn't go back after the comp.
I did, yeah. I did go back.
Oh, you did? Okay, sorry. I must be tracking with the dates. Yeah, okay. I figured you did because I I saw, I mean, this year it's been Jeff in the yellow and you in the kind of orange red.
Yeah, totally.
It's like the Hubboard guides, you guys know how to stand out. Half of me wonders if there's some marketing in that. And I was like, hang on, oh, this is a different day. This is another day. And yeah, it appeared to me that it was post the comp, and I just wanted to clarify that with you because some of those days looked like they were pumping.
Pumping.
Oh yeah. And Jeff, is he changing a rashi or is he just wearing the same one?
He's wearing that same yellow hooded rashi, and that's kind of his season. Yeah,
Well, Hubboard's gear lasts, right? It can take a beating, literally. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we need to be visible because there's a litter of photographers on the beach, and they might not be necessarily trying to shoot us, but they're probably going to record if the wave looks good, and then the bright color helps them to either find the clip back or it helps pull their attention to us when we're on the wave. So, and it looks good. It looks good in the imagery and the content.
Oh yeah, this season there's a lot of helmets, and I noticed that you were in these helmets, and listeners here from New Zealand would be very familiar with them because the New Zealand All Blacks are the most, as they say, winningest team in all the world, the New Zealand All Blacks. Mm-hmm. And these hats that you guys are all, not hats, these helmets that you guys are all wearing, like I noticed all the surfers are wearing them now. They look, I've never seen them before. They look like a rugby hat. They're kind of, yeah, you could explain it maybe.
Yeah, so it is really cool. There has been, a big development over the last few years in protective wear, specifically helmets, have come a long way. There was pretty much just like one model of helmet 20, 30 years ago, the Gaff helmet, and so nowadays there's a bunch of different products on the market and there's some different styles. So there's still the hard helmet, but now there's also some soft helmets. So I'm using a soft surf helmet, which does look reminiscent of a rugby helmet because it just fits a little tighter, but it's made of a cloth material instead of a harder composite. And I find it very comfortable to wear. So that's why I choose that one.
Yeah, because listen, this pipeline is a reef break and it's shallow. And what's really scary about, I've never surfed pipeline. I've surfed some decent, scary reefs in my time. But pipeline it has a lot of holes in the reef, and that's one of its most terrifying things. I know people break their legs and all sorts of things in the reef. The idea of the holes there. So yeah, you got a good helmet on there, Dave.
Yeah, and one of the added bonuses, the wave is very powerful, so there can be already just damage with contact of the water. We're surfing big waves, and you could maybe fall. We're trying to do aerials, and so we could potentially fall 15, 20 feet and contact the water surface. So that's already a danger. You mentioned the reef below is clearly the biggest danger because contact with that can result in, lacerations or concussions or, knocking you unconscious or death. Many people have died at pipe because of contacting their head directly with the reef, but there's been other injuries with other wave riders. So if a cleanup set comes and people are ditching their boards and we're all in the same area, surfboards can hit you and injure you. And there's been crazy injuries at pipe because the crowd is very thick. There's so many people there, it gets very congested, and waves can break farther out and catch people unprepared, and the crafts sometimes get discarded and hit people further in. So that's another reason I really like to wear the helmet and feel a little bit more safe while I'm out there, is from the protection from even other riders.
Yeah, because it's so crowded out there. Now, there was a guy, forgive me, I wanted to say McKenna for some reason, but I think he's got more of a Hawaiian name. Young guy was pulled out of the water unconscious just this season.
Yeah.
I heard he was in a coma.
Yeah, I think they induced a coma to help with the situation because he suffered head trauma, and so they were very concerned about brain injury. So I think they induced a coma to allow the brain some time to heal and recover. And Mackay McNamara, I believe that's
McNamara, that's right. Yeah, it is. That's him.
And I haven't got the latest, we're a couple months out from when that took place, but my understanding was that he was going to be okay. But I don't have the update there. But yeah, it's it's super serious. And he normally wears a helmet. I don't know why he wasn't wearing one on that specific day. I think yeah, whatever the case is, would have
Yeah.
helped.
Wow. Dave, what's life been like for you post this competition win? Like, tell us about the day after. I saw a photo of, I think, you, your wife, your brother Jeff, and Jared maybe out to dinner celebrating that night. But tell us what life's been like, brother.
Yeah, a lot of cloud, feeling like I'm on a cloud, just obviously a really, really high. And it was nice. I didn't really feel like a big dip. Sometimes you have a really high and then you kind of have to come down and then kind of re-equalize. But I'd never really, had a hangover, a victory hangover, so to speak. But certainly kind of came down from the initial really high, but still I'm just so thrilled. People more often than previously, will stop me, or I'll see a friend and they'll bring up the win, which has just been really nice. People are generally pretty supportive, and I've got great family and friends who support me, but even some strangers and even some people I normally don't interact with will mention, and hey, didn't you win the pipe, and congrats. And it seems to be kind of a big deal for even the community outside the bodyboarding community, but my community here on Kauai and in Hawaii, people are stoked to have somebody win it, be from whether it's their backyard, their island, or their state. So people.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was thinking that Kauai would be very stoked for you. And I'm sure your church family would have been stoked too.
They were stoked for sure. So yeah, life since the win has been, kind of shifting kind of away from, that was kind of like my main focus this year. I'm not going to compete on the world tour, so I have a lot more time open and available. So I've taken on a couple more commitments. One of my buddies is a pastor at a sister church or another church within the missionary denomination, and he asked me to preach the Sunday after Easter. So that's coming up.
Praise God. There you go. I forgot to say, listeners, Dave is an elder in his local church. Praise God, you've been asked to preach, brother. That's awesome.
Thank you. And I just pray that God will speak through me and won't be too much of my own ideas. But yeah, also I'll preach this summer for our church, and just certain opportunities like that. I've even been feeling.
That is so cool. I didn't know any of this. This is so great.
Yeah, I've also been kind of feeling a call maybe to maybe get licensed as a pastor in the missionary church, just to.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't think, as I was explaining it to my pastor, I don't think it's necessarily, I don't feel like a shift in God's calling on my life, but I feel that potentially this could help me to answer the current call God has on my life. Maybe equip me a little bit more. So whether it's education or just the different trainings, I think that kind of goes already hand in hand with where God has me and how God is using me. And I'm part of my giftings, I guess. I really do like to serve, encourage, and support other pastors and other people doing ministry. So I think that this would even help in that context as well, where it might be just facilitate me helping and serving in other capacities just a little more. So again, I don't think it's going to change who I am, but I've been kind of trying to discern that kind of calling lately.
Love it. I absolutely love it. If I can ever encourage you in any way, just let me know. I'd love to. The idea of this is really warming my heart. Pastoral ministry it's an immense privilege, and it comes with immense challenge, but I really believe to be an instrument that is afforded the opportunity to administer the means of grace, the Word of God, and is a special privilege. I look forward to talking more with you about that and seeing what the Lord does on a journey like that. That's really cool.
Likewise.
It's really cool, Dave.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have some of our own communication on the topic, but fun to surprise you on the podcast with some news that you like.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's really cool because we've spoken about this before. Growing up, we both weren't Christians, bodyboarding a lot. I obviously was never professional. You were, but we're bodyboarding. We're lost, unregenerate, and then there were some men ahead of us who to be Christian. Some of them even went in to be pastors, and then down the corridor of time, you see that now some of them at least have either just totally walked away or just really have some bizarre, strange ideas. And yeah, it's kind of sad. But to think that you might get into those things, and that's good. That's really good. I'm really pleased to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what do you think you're going to be doing? You know, you mentioned No World Tour. You mentioned that you're going to have these opportunities in the life of the church. And that's really great. And listeners, be praying for Dave. Well, I'm sure Jeff is going to say, hey, Dave, we're going to go do this trip. We're going to keep getting this footage and these photos. And so I guess around the islands or any overseas trips planned, any other trips planned?
I'll do a promotion kind of trip in the summer. There's a surf expo that I'll go represent our brand at, and then do a little promo tour on the east coast of the United States with Jared.
Oh, yeah.
So that's something, we don't do that all the time, but from time to time, that's just part of having a company. And
Like around New Jersey, Manhattan Beach area, or no?
Yeah, we'll start in North Carolina and finish at the top of New Jersey. I don't think we'll do anything in New York, but although there is waves, Long Island, New York.
Yeah.
So,
well, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be a fun trip. My wife and I will then vacation in New York City after that.
I thought you were about to say New Zealand, not New York. New Zealand, that would be a great place to come. Bring your wife and come to the beautiful Hawke's Bay, and we can hunt some waves, Dave.
We definitely will. I think, Lord willing, my wife and I will get down to New Zealand. It's on the list for sure.
Yeah. So a bit of traveling, some church life, and the opportunity to pour into others, right?
Yeah.
The apostles Paul spoke about being spent for Christ. And I made mention of a poem that a missionary wrote on Sunday, C.T. Studd. He was a missionary, but he was also an English cricketer, a very good cricketer. And he's famous for writing the poem, Only One Life Till Soon Be Past. Only What's Done for Christ Will Last. And I read the whole poem, half of it at the beginning of the sermon, the second half of it at the end of the sermon. And a lot of the church family here hadn't heard it, and it's quite impactful. I'll send it to you later, the full poem, but it's really that idea. He ends it by saying that it's, even though it's hard and joyful and sorrowful, kind of commingled, he said it's all worth it. It's all worth it. So may God bless you, and I really appreciate your time today, Dave, and we'll be keeping in touch, and listeners, keep praying for Dave, as I've said, and congratulations again. Thank you for your time, being able to catch up with you post the Pipeline win. And I'm sure we'll schedule another podcast again in 6 months' time and see what the Lord's done since then. But Dave, from myself, from the church family here at Riverbend Bible Church, from the listeners of No Lasting City, thank you very much for your time. Grace and peace to you, brother, and thanks for joining us today.
And also with you. And thank you so much to you and your listeners as well.
Thanks, brother.
Aloha.
No Lasting City is a ministry of Riverbend Bible Church in Hastings, New Zealand. For more information, please visit our website, riverbend.org.nz, or visit us on YouTube. Follow us on social media where you can interact with us or ask us any questions. Our links are in the show notes, and we'd love to see you there.